Coming up next on the Wet Fly Swing podcast.
Won't you let me down easy? Take it in small pieces. Might have slipped along the way. Blindside before hitting a wall. We met in the forest.
That was Sarah Jo Royalty breaking out a live ballad to start your day. The Fly Tying Zone, the $45 Fly, and Daiichi today on The Swing.
Welcome to the Wet Fly Swing Fly Fishing Show, where you discover tips, tricks, and tools from the leading names in fly fishing today.
Hey, how you doing today? Thanks for stopping by the show. Did you know there's an easy way to ask a question of an upcoming guest? Right now, if you are on Instagram and haven't followed us, check out at Wet Fly Swing on Instagram, and you can submit a question for an upcoming guest right there. And if we select your question, you are likely to get a shout out, and eventually we're going to be giving away some free gear, so stay tuned on that. Today's episode is sponsored by Daiichi Fishing Hooks, a leader in the fly fishing industry and still the world's sharpest hook. Tempered with carbon-rich steel, Daiichi offers superior penetration without compromising the hook's structural integrity. You can head over right now to wetflyswing.com/Daiichi and check out what they have going and check out these killer hooks. That's Daiichi, Daiichi. Sarah Jo Royalty is here to take us into her story around fly tying, sailing, and music. We find out whether being a professional golf caddy or a professional fly fishing guide is harder, what's new with her new FFI fly fishing event she's got coming up this year, and then she knocks it out of the park, like I said, with this live guitar solo at the end. You got to stay tuned for this one. It's pretty amazing. Here we go. Sarah Jo Royalty at Sarah Jo Flies on Instagram. Here we go. How's it going, Sarah?
Hi, how are you doing? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on here. We are going to dig into a little on the fly tying. Actually, I didn't know you before running into at one of the shows. We're working with Daiichi this year, and you were at the booth with. Talk about the booth that you're there. You're with the big guy, right, at the Albany show.
Yeah, Caleb. Caleb, the national sales manager. He often refers to himself as the son and Tommy boy, but I think. I think he works much harder than that. He's selling himself really short. But yeah, it's a family-owned business now, and I have been sponsored by Daiichi for about 2 years, kind of working through all of their management changes and stuff. Has been a little, every time I get a new letter and they're like, we have to revise everything, I'm like, oh, I'm getting cut. Here we go.
Oh, right.
But every time it seems to have been fine. And yeah, I got lucky enough of all the tires that they had in the area. I got lucky enough to be tying in the booth for Daiichi for the show. And so Caleb and I spent the weekend together and got to know each other, had a great time. And it just kind of, furthered that connection with the company. So that was awesome.
Yeah, that is cool. And it's pretty awesome because I've had a little bit of a connection with Daiichi for a while, just even after, on top of everything going back kind of old school. So it's cool to see that they got the family kind of, it's the family atmosphere, right? And Caleb, and that was a fun episode we did. I'll put a link to that one. We talked about Chota, but he's got an interesting background as well, like with the professional fishing and all that stuff. It's pretty good.
Totally. And he loves golf.
Oh, he does.
Oh, yes. We talked about his drive and how he's getting his driver straightened out during the weekend. So, but the one thing too is like all this sponsorship stuff is real, I don't want to say iffy, but like I have to just fully believe in a product to be with it. Any of them, anybody that I'm sponsored with, I was like either in love with before or they moved me in such a way. And I think the thing for Daiichi is like quality control right now. Since they bought the company, they probably have like 800,000 plus hooks in stock that they will never sell because they decided that they weren't strong enough and they had everything remanu. And so like, I just like really respect that,
Yeah, Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah, and we haven't talked about the whole history about the transition there, how that all went down, but yeah, I mean, we can make some guesses, right, at how that. But the important thing is now they're on track, right? And so what they're producing is good stuff.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, cool. And so I want to dig in, I want to talk, you got some, the golf. My brother is a big golfer, so is my dad. And there was a period where I golfed a little bit in my life. I think I was maybe a bogey type golfer, but
yeah,
I haven't done it in a long time. But so you got all that. Let's just take it back before we jump into some of the random conversation. Let's jump into fly fishing, kind of where you got started, how you got into fly fishing. Then we'll talk more Daiichi and fly tying.
So, I mean, the fly fishing was more of a West Coast thing that hit me. I started on the East Coast as a commercial longliner. Not gonna lie, it was the movie The Perfect Storm. I saw that and I was like,
yeah.
aside from that really bad weather,
Right.
this looks kind of interesting to me. I might hate it, but I kind of just want to try it, you know. Eventually got somebody to pick me up because I was living on the East Coast in Beaufort, North Carolina, which is a big commercial fishing area. So I pretty much just had to walk down to the dock or to the bar in the afternoon, when they come in. And eventually got taken on as an observer, but quickly got hired as a mate and just kind of went from there. Did it on and off for 6 years, all types, commercial lining for tuna and swordfish, bottom fishing with electric reels for rockfish and clamming, shrimping, ran a shrimp boat for a while, just kind of hopped all around and then ended up moving out to the West Coast. And when I got out here, probably because I had small kids and stuff, was looking more towards a different type of fishing to challenge me, and ended up dating a guy for a while who liked fly fishing. Got rid of him, and it just I got just caught on quickly and got sponsored almost right away. I started tying and got sponsored by Spirit River. It was my first sponsorship before they sold to Hairline Dubbing, and that was about 9 months after I started. And that was an interesting story because he was the guy I was with was like, absolutely do not touch anything of mine, right? And so I would take a picture of his vise, right the way he left it, and I would eye on it, and then I would move everything right back,
Oh wow, that's classic.
just because I need to try it before I buy all this. And so I eventually decided, and then one day he comes home, and I liked his vise. He had a Renzetti Traveler, a great vise to start on. I ended up buying that. I ended up keeping that until just last year. But yeah, he came home, and I had that, and he's like, "What's going on here?" And I showed him this grasshopper. He's like, "That's ridiculously good." And I'm like, "This is mine. Leave me alone."
Wow, so that's it.
And he just accept it, but he just was, I don't know, I think he just wanted to keep his own hobby, and I get that, I do, but
Right. Wow, that's crazy. So the flight tying sounds like it came to you. Did it seem easy? How did you get to a point where you're sponsored? I don't even know, right, like how that all works, but that came so quick.
I don't think there's really, you say, how does that happen? I mean, you're really just kind of get lucky sometimes. Obviously you have to have something they're looking for, but I was at a show. I talked to the gal, I think that was a manager at Spirit River, and I expressed my interest. Oh, I think I went to the Albany show and asked to tie. So then I was tying at a little show. She came over and she said, "I really like your stuff. Please apply." And I thought, well, that's weird, But when I sent my pictures of my flies, they just, they thought they were, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
They were great, and she took me on right away, and they were great because I could drive over to the factory and just wander through and pick out whatever I wanted.
Oh wow, is that how it works? I guess with the sponsor there, you basically tie with their stuff, and then you can kind of grab what you need.
Yeah, so now my tying material, I mean, I have a account with Hairline, so anybody around me that wants to get stuff from Hairline Dubbing, I can get it all day long for them, But now I'm with Semperfly for materials, and I suppose I could walk in there. They're very friendly, but they're in the UK. Won't stepping in to grab materials, but they send me stuff all the time, so that's great.
Yeah, I gotcha. Okay, cool. And now you're tying. Do you tie flies? It sounds like you do some custom flies. Is the selling of the flies a big part of what you do?
Yes, I feel like I'm so busy with everything that I don't heavily advertise. I mean, I'm 100% open for business, but I'm not like throwing up ads everywhere. Hey, DM me for, you know, because I end up getting such a long wait list. It becomes discouraging for people.
Gotcha.
Oftentimes the wait list is at least 3 months or more, So I already have like a decent clientele. And again, I'm open to taking more. I just don't throw it out there as much because I am busy doing it. And then the other thing is like tying directly for like Daiichi or Semperfly and, taking photos. I have like a nice camera and a photo setup with their product, so do promotion and stuff like that. That's a big part of it for me. Then test patterns. I mean, one of my goals this year, Daiichi would like as well, is entering some of my more used patterns, widely sold patterns to Umpqua per se. Like that's, an option because they will use the Daiichi hook in.
Oh, they will.
Which is huge, right? I had to ask about that. So that's more of, production and stuff more so than trying to whip out a pile of flies,
Yeah, I see. Yeah. So you're not doing the whatever it is, bazillion, hundreds of dozens of flies sort of thing.
That gets intense. I do that for a couple of guides that I absolutely love. And they're like, yeah, just like 6 dozen of those. And then like another 4 of those. And I'm like, yeah, no problem.
Right. Gosh.
I got it down pretty well. And again, I only do that like a couple times a year for a couple of guides. And so I do kind of enjoy doing that just because it's a small amount,
Yeah.
But man, guys that do that day in and day out, I don't think that's for me.
Yeah. We've talked to a few of them. I'm actually probably going to be fishing with one, Nick Pianista. He's out of New York, and he's a big. We talked about that. I can't remember how many dozen he ties per day. But yeah, everybody gets their little method, right? To, I don't know, stay in the zone, I guess. Does it feel like it when you're tying? You're kind of in the zone.
I think that's my problem. Is like I'll get in the zone for a while and I'll whip out like especially, but I really have to force myself into the zone. I think, when I'm tying, part of it to make it profitable is, like kind of what we talked about before this is like the type of flies I try to add more detail, try to make sure everything is really specific when it comes to, weighting and all those things so that it might cost a little more because it took me a little longer because I wasn't just pumping them out, if that makes sense. Not say that your friend isn't pumping out amazing flies. I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
But, when you're looking through the fly shop, sometimes you're like, pick up if you're like, nope, wouldn't fish some of those, right?
Oh, right. Gotcha.
That sort of thing. Like if it's not perfect, it doesn't go out. But, I have TV on at night and I'm like, sometimes I get distracted and I make a new pattern or I don't know, stare at the TV for a while.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't always pump them out as fast as some people are.
Right. So yeah, the TV going, you don't have the podcast going in the background or the music.
Sometimes music a bit. Yeah, music a bit too. It really just kind of depends on who's around and what's going on. If my kids are like want to watch something, I'll be tying and then we can watch something together. And that's a good way for me to kind of double up on time,
Gotcha. What's your patterns wise? Do you get a mix of like, what would be your most common pattern? Do you tie the same thing a lot or do you just have a mix of stuff?
Seasonally, like right now, perdigons and the dry dropper on the Deschutes is about to go off. So lots of salmon fly, dry stimulators, chubbies, all those, and perdigons are huge right now. I tie, in general, I have a pinfish pattern that is probably my most popular pattern by far. I tie and sell a lot of those.
Pinfish.
Yeah, there's a company that I kind of met on Instagram years ago, and they became kind of a little sponsor for me. Their Drop Jaw Flies is the name of them.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and then I ended up, meeting Jason and fishing with him, and we've been working together for years now. But it was actually another caddy. He sent me a picture. He said, I need these. And it had these heads on it that Jason had made. They're realistic looking heads. And I said, I looked into it, and I said, you can't afford these. And and he says, I don't care how much they are. And I was like, interesting. I'm going to consider that when I'm selling flies.
Right.
And it turns out that, yeah, I probably sell more of these flies with these heads, which it's the biggest fly I have is about 6 inches on that one. And
Wow.
it's like $45. And
Wow.
people buy them all the time.
Now, how much is $45 for how many?
No, this is for one that's like 6 to 8 inches long.
Oh, wow. So literally $45 per fly.
So the little ones, the pinfish, are like 10 to 15, depending on the sizing. But a $10 for a fly is kind of a lot. But also, when it's like, hey, I'm not good at fly fishing yet, I have poor presentation, or like whatever your deal is, hey, I want to target a monster, all of a sudden you maybe don't mind paying for it, is what I found. Because Jason hand makes the heads. It's really the head that is expensive. And then I take a while on the body because I take this like Chinese saddle hackle and glue it together and cut a tail out of it. It just takes forever.
And what is the fly used for?
Oh, that's the thing too, is you can use it for like any and every species. That's if I had one fly, and that's the question, right? If I had one fly in the box, it would be this one all day.
Really, you could use it for, so basically it has like a cone head, right? It's got a...
Yeah, I mean, a striper, I've had steelhead go after it. Not super common,
Yep.
Trout, bass, all types of bass. I mean, yeah, you name it, that's the one that everybody likes.
There you go, the pinfish. And where could you find that if somebody wanted to look at it?
Oh, you could come on Instagram. It's on there a million times. Yeah.
Yeah, good. All right, so you got the pinfish, and then you mentioned the other ones, some of the seasonal stuff. Are you tying throughout, the whole year? Or do you have flies going, or do you take a break?
Pretty much tie all year. Like after this kind of run, I'll be tying a ton of nymphs for the Rogue River. We have summer still on the Rogue River. I do guide on my guide license. I don't guide a ton. That's another like novelty thing for me. I live on the Oregon coast. So like I kind of travel. I love the Salmon Fly Hatch and I love the Rogue River. So I just go spend time over there and open up slots and guide. But a lot of it is sometimes, TFO, like my Rod and Reel sponsor. They come down and it's like I'm guiding for them, or Fly Fishers International. I really have my license for those two probably. And I don't know that I have the patience to do that 365. Which is funny because my patience on the golf course caddying is never ending. I hear that all the time. I said, you just need to know that I am 180-degree opposite when I get out of here and like don't have enough patience,
Oh, Roy. Oh, so you have to have patience as a caddy.
Yeah. It's like, because like the guiding, again, I do enjoy it, but it's like all day I'm basically like, especially on the Deschutes, you can't fish from the boat. You can float and drift through all this water that you don't have access to on land. But you're still anchoring and getting out and fishing from the shore. I'm like running in between two people all day. And, I have 2 rods and all I'm doing is running from one, switch them out, start re-rigging, run to the other, switch it out, start re-rigging. All you do all day is tie knots,
Right.
I really enjoy getting people on fish who like really can't even get they can't even get a fly out there. And I'm like, I'm able to get them to catch something. I'm like, that's amazing.
Yeah. Do you deal with, when you look at the caddying versus the guiding, which one's harder?
Oh, guiding takes way more time and is way tougher.
No kidding. So it's way harder than guiding. Even what if your cat, I guess people that have a caddy probably have some skills.
Well, okay, so it's not even that. Our average handicap at the dunes is like 20, which is pretty high. But in general, golf or handicaps are average is very high. Like I think that the odds that Golf Digest or somebody put up, don't quote me on, some major golf somebody was like, you're more likely to get in a plane wreck than like shoot under par or something, shoot par or even par. So, but the difference is a lot of the clients that you're getting fly fishing are like, hey, I've never done this before. And you don't get people showing up to the golf course like, I've never swung a club before.
No.
And so teaching those things also, because I teach a lot of beginner fly fishing clinics, teaching that is very similar to teaching golf. So it takes a little time, it's like you get it in the grass and then all of a sudden you're on the water and it's like, you don't got it, it's just a long learning curve, it's a big one.
Right. Wow, this is good. So you got the golf going on, and I know we'll talk a little about the music. I'm always interested in getting some music in there, but remind us again on the Daiichi. Who did you run into first at Daiichi? What was your, how'd you make that?
Well, that's a good question. I'm trying to think, but I feel like people at the show are always like, "Hey, why don't you get on with so and so?" Like I said, I am pretty particular and careful about that, and so I hadn't been on with a hook company yet because I'd really just hadn't decided on anybody. And actually, I think their first manager is the one that really, who's I don't know what he's doing now, but he kind of swayed me. He really talked me into it. But obviously, Caleb sold me all day. After our interaction, I was just like, I'm a diehard now.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, he does that. He's got that personality where it's just you get around him. I've been chatting with. Well, we did a podcast, but then when I saw him in person, what I mean, it's like he's just got that personality.
He does. Well, yeah, he does. Like I said, we're stuck in the booth all day. He's gluten free too, and so then of course we were dining together because it's like we're outcasts in the community.
Yeah.
It's hard to find food sometimes.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, we ended up having a great time, and just again, like I said, talking about the quality, like when they go into specifics for me, that's he doesn't even realize that he's selling me when he's like, hey, so yeah, I had to, for them, sometimes they're like, it's a burden because it's like, oh, I spent all this money on new hooks. It's like, that's a great selling point. Hello, you just
Right.
told me. So I think it was just one of the tires was like, you got to get on with these guys. And then my rep, Dick Sagara, who's a
Oh yeah.
Northwest rep for TFO, he's probably the one that like pushed it the most. He's like a little bit of an agent for me. He's like, who do you want?
Right. He is. Yeah.
Let's kind of get you going. So I think he was ultimately the hookup there. But I had run into people who had, and I mentioned it, and Dick's like, oh yeah, you got to get on with these guys. And they have a conglomerate too, like of other products too. And they're coming out with like beads and other stuff. So
Yeah, they got some stuff going. Well, I was just thinking, so, we had Steve Potter on recently. He kind of walked through, some hooks, his type of tying. He does some deer hair stuff. I'm just curious on you with the hooks. Are you kind of tying also? It sounds like you tie trout flies, a little mixture. Do you have like a few of the hooks that you're using most often with Daiichi, or are you using a bunch of different ones?
yeah, so the jig hooks are the 46, 47s. There's like a whole series of those. I use a lot of those. One of my favorite hooks from them that I don't think anybody knows about is a 1730. It's like this nymph hook that's bent
Oh, okay. Yeah.
quarters of the way up. And it's just like, so when you're tying the body, it kind of works out just
Mm-hmm.
perfect.
When you're tying nips.
Yes. Yeah, that's probably my favorite. And then 1130 is dry fly hooks. And they have everything a barbless now too.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So that's pretty huge. And the X point. So like for steelheading, I do tie a lot of saltwater hooks on a lot of saltwater flies and steelhead flies. And so the X point, which I know they're replacing that, but it's basically the same thing. So whatever the X point is probably the strongest hook I've ever encountered. That one's pretty amazing. So those are my go-tos.
And what are your steelhead flies? What are you tying? What's the common steelhead flies you're tying? That's like the rogue stuff.
Lots of swing flies. Well, tons of nymphs. Yeah, tons of steelhead nymphs for sure.
Like stone flies and stuff like that, or what would be a steelhead nymph?
Yeah, lots of stone flies. For the coast here, we have winter steelhead run, and I'm like one of the only fly fishermen down there.
Oh
So
wow.
I have a whole nother set of flies.
This is like in the lower rogue.
No, this is like in the Coos River.
Oh, the coos.
Yeah, like on the coastal stuff. That's where I'm at year round. That's where I live.
Oh, gotcha.
We don't have any fly shops. I'm the closest thing you can get to a fly shop in this area. We don't have really any fly guides. There's maybe one or two that I could recommend.
Roy, so you don't see many people out there swinging flies?
Oh, there's no.
Nobody. I wonder why that is. I guess it's just a numbers thing, because if you go up to the more towards Portland, you'll see plenty of people swinging for winter steelhead.
Yeah, the river it's funny because it's taken me years to figure it out. Because it's like I said, it's all conventional fishermen, and like if you know the setup, that it's like you're just in them all the time, But the fly fishing is really effective, but it's like I had to like it's just not what you would do anywhere else.
Roy, what are you using? Are you doing, like the spay?
Super tiny nymph sometimes because it's coastal water, I had to like get small glow bug hooks to like I had to search for hooks that would fit a small enough fly sometimes for some of this area.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So small. So you're fishing like kind of clear water, trying to get really stealthy.
Well, yeah, so on the coast, we have so much runoff that we don't have as many nutrients in the water, and our like native, trout, like our native fish don't get as big. So in general, and we don't have the heat, so we don't have the types of hatches that you're going to find inland, and that affects the size. So we just don't get the bug size, that you're going
Gotcha.
to anywhere else, even upriver, like rogue, upper rogue versus, I mean, the lower rogue does well too with big bugs, but you're not gonna find that off, in our area. So they're smaller, they're a little different. Once I kind of figured out some of that, it was on.
Nice.
And the swinging too, we have good swinging, but also that's another thing is it's like you got to drift through. There's a lot of, you can't access it by, bank access, and there's no take-ins and take-outs.
Oh,
So you
right.
make your own,
Just hop in and make your own trail. So for TFO, what's the rod you're using for winter steelhead?
Well, so I do go pretty light. I do have a BVK that I use a lot. And I have a new Axiom that I'm kind of in love with because it's so light. It feels like you're fishing almost like a 5-weight or something. But I think I use 6-weights a lot.
Yeah.
I know, like, again, that's probably a little light for our area because the fish are pretty big, but everybody's trying to swing and use their switch rod, and there's just no room for that where I am. I just don't understand where people toss those sometimes.
Oh, gotcha. So you're using like a single hand 6-weight.
Oh, absolutely.
Gotcha. And you're just doing like the nymphing thing. Are you doing like a indicator thing or?
I swing eggs, I swing nymph sometimes. I mean, it's just like some weird fishing,
It sounds familiar. Actually, we've got a ton of steelhead episodes, and I've interviewed people all over the country. And I just had somebody on from New York, and we'll put a link to the show notes on that. But he was talking about how he swings with an indicator and like the similar setup for flies, and it helps to keep the fly off the bottom. He was saying,
Yeah.
yeah, and it keeps it in the zone for him.
Yeah, sometimes when the water like just isn't wide open like that, you just get too many different hydraulics too, and then like you don't have like the runs the way, I mean, they're there, but they're shorter and they're changed too quickly, and so like what he's saying, just trying to adopt some different practices is helpful.
Yeah, definitely. Nice. So you got a little steelhead, and then you got the rogue. Of course, you're not. I mean, what are you? You're a couple hours or less from the rogue.
Yeah, I'm like 2 hours and 15 minutes or so to the upper area where we're like Shady Cove area, and we'll just,
God, that's awesome.
it's so good. Yeah, and that's where we have, maybe this is a good time, that's where we have our event.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, tell me about it. Let's hear this event.
This is the second annual. Last year was more of, we didn't sell tickets, it was by invitation only. But we had a campout, and we had music, and it was on the upper rogue. And I invited as many conservation groups as I could find in the state of Oregon. So my thought was, I'm kind of, we sit at FFI in our board meeting and we talk about, I'm the vice president of Fly Fishers International for the state of Oregon. So I've been on the council for 2.5 years now. And when I came on, I basically just listened for a while. But after a while, I was like, raise my hand. I have a question. Yes. What do we do?
What do we do? Like, what's our mission?
Yeah. What do we do? And it's like nobody really. I was like, so I have another question. Can we start doing things? It's like, so I've spent time internally restructuring things like forming streams of income and getting us a little more stable and that so that we can grow, because they have grown it pretty big, but now we're so big. We have like 550 members and like over 15 clubs that are affiliated with us that we're kind of bursting at the seams, and some,
Right.
It's like needing to be more involved. It's like, what are we doing with all this? So what we're doing now is, I think we're trying to find our role, and I think, our official role is glue. We are glue is what we're trying to do. So it's like I'm looking throughout Oregon, and obviously the whole entire state is businesses based on natural resources, of all kinds. And that's how we run the whole state. That's how everybody makes their money. So we're looking around and there's like hundreds of different nonprofits throughout the state. And it's like, what are we really getting done? I'm not saying nobody's getting anything done, but I'm saying this process is, we're not being as effective as we could. It's like, why don't we all get together, decide what's most important for the state, and pick at least one thing every year and just really get it done. Like we had the no retention of wild steelhead last year, and it's like we finally had ODF and W voting for that, which is huge. They're voting against their own program, hatchery program, really is what they're doing. But then immediately recanted, they revoked the whole thing. So it was like, how do we support that? You know, if we have strength in numbers, maybe it's not going to be such an issue to get some of these things done for our state. And maybe if we have everybody together, we can get a picture of what's really wrong when we can see everybody's firsthand account of, you know, their struggle in their area. So last year we had 10 or 15 groups. We did a roundtable. Basically, the idea is the boardroom is stuffy and people aren't relaxed and they don't have creative flows there. So we're going to have music, be on the river, be low key, have drinks, have food, and relax and really get to know each other.
Right. So this is the music. And so what does that look like on the river? Because you play some music, right? Is this something where you have bands come in or?
The stage, we have camping. So you can get a camping ticket, a 2-day camping ticket, and they're relative. I think they're like $120. They're really cheap. And it comes with food. There's like morning breakfast set up. There's like afternoon barbecue. You're literally right on the road. It's pretty free and open throughout the day. The idea is literally to mingle and get to know each other. After that, in the early afternoon, we have kind of announcements and presentations from any nonprofits that want to, you know, say, hey, this is what we're working on and we need help with right now, to see how other organizations like we have money and we can give grants to people who just need funding, or hey, we have members, you need manpower for your event, like, hey, we can help you with that, you know.
Gotcha. So you're connecting local. What would be some of the local nonprofits that would be there?
Oh man, last year we had Deschutes River Alliance. We had we even had some people from the university.
So it's open, whoever wants to. Yeah.
This year it's open. We're selling tickets and it's open. We have day passes for just one night of camping. We have the 2-day camping, and then we have night passes for music. So Free Creatures is our main band.
Oh, nice. Free Creatures.
Yeah, they're so good.
What type of music is it?
It's kind of like a funky vibe, like it's just like chill beats. There's a female singer, she's got an upright bass that she plays, and then they've got a guy like mixing and doing some like intermittent kind of rapping type. It's really cool.
Free Creature, okay.
Yeah, they have a great they generate a pretty big crowd. They'll be playing Saturday night, and people can come down and buy tickets for each night if they just want to come see music.
Oh, just music.
All inclusive, just so we can get some bodies in there that might be interested but are really moved by the music, just to kind of gain awareness in general for conservation in our state. You know, that's why we're leaving it open to the public. But ultimately in the mornings, there's the roundtables. Is we get anybody who is a representative that wants to, like I said, present the night before, and then we all get together and we just sit down in a circle and talk about what we can do to help each other and how we can move forward, you know, with keeping Oregon a profitable natural resource business, I suppose, you know, for everybody, fish included. You know, it's like there is enough for everybody to thrive here, including the resources that we're using.
Right. Yeah, everything, because it is there's plenty of things going on in the state that are challenging, just like any state, right? But so we'll put a link in the show notes to the Free Creature so we can listen to some of that. But what is your music? What do you play?
Man, I play everything. I think that's kind of I have a blues vibe for sure. I would say like some sort of indie blues is like kind of my thing. I started as a classical pianist when I was 3, and I played a lot of different instruments. I had a vocal scholarship in college, and now I play an upright bass too. I play the bass and play guitar and sing. but mainly songwriting. I would say I'm officially a songwriter.
Oh, wow. That's cool. What's your, I've had this funny thing. We had a recent guest, we had main fly guys on, Greg was on, and he mentioned Queen, which is kind of funny because Queen is obviously, and whenever I hear Queen, I never thought much about Queen. Of course, they got all these ballads, you know, We Will Rock You and stuff. But I've had this one song stuck in my head and I can't get it out of my head. So I've been listening to it. But I mean, what are your thoughts? So you got Queen. I mean, do you have any huge bands that everybody would know of that you kind of maybe hide? You wouldn't tell anybody you like them, but you actually do?
Oh man, it's funny. I was thinking about this the other day because I really like every type of music. In fact, I was angry at Spotify because I asked for a certain playlist the other day, and it was like I wanted like 90s rap, and then it was like they threw Portishead on, and I was like, "What is this?" You know, and then Bob Marley was playing, and I was like, "Come on!" But it's like I just wanted the one kind. But my favorite songs, I think, are like classic rock, like the White Stripes.
Okay.
Some of my favorite songs, I think, are classic rock.
So classic rock, and I don't even think of the White Stripes as classic rock. I kind of think more like...
What do you think it's more like?
Well, I think when I always think of classic, I think of like, Queen, 70s, 80s, whatever, that rock.
Yeah.
But White Stripes, I'm not even sure when they start. Maybe they do go back that far.
Maybe just rock.
It's just rock.
In general. But sometimes I find that interesting because I do love the blues, like big old-time blues.
Like olds, yeah.
Yeah, like Little Walter.
Right, all that old good stuff. What about the Beatles?
Oh man, it's funny. Huge influence on the Beatles. My dad gave me all the Beatles vinyl albums when I was like 6 or 7. He's like in a record player in my room, and he just was like, he's funny sometimes, you know, he's like a businessman, but every once in a while he like kind of walk in and declare something and like, this was music. This is all the music you're really gonna need. This is pretty much all it is. Everybody just like redoes their songs anyway. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like, and then I'm like, learn all however many albums he gave me, you know, like there are 15 albums or whatever it is. And then I walk in on my dad one day listening to disco, and I'm like, what is this? What is this? This is amazing. You didn't tell me anything about it.
Right. Wow. So your dad was a big influence on your music?
Well, it's funny. He loves to listen to music. He was a lawyer. He's a real finance guy. And I know at one point he was frustrated because my brother's a percussionist, you know, and I was going in for, you know, I had to sign up for a music degree to get a scholarship, right? I was really interested in science. Chemistry and biochemistry was my real interest. But in order to pay for school, you know, I had to really say I was going to be a music major.
Yeah.
So my dad was crushed, but now he loves music, and my brother's the only, you know, he's the full-time musician as a percussionist. I have been a full-time musician at times, and I hope actually that's my goal, is to kind of transition eventually off the golf course and only do like fly fishing sponsorship and be a musician.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's kind of my next.
And music. There you go.
Back to that, you know, because I'm not going to want to carry bags forever, you know.
Today's episode is sponsored by Chota Outdoor, legendary comfort and equipment you can trust. Chota insists on the finest material and craftsmanship to assure you have the highest standards of quality. You'll feel in control of the elements in your Chota gear. Every product is solidly backed with a no-nonsense warranty against defects. And I have a family connection to Chota over the years. Back in the shop, the old shop, my dad carried Chota, and he wore those proudly with confidence. And now I'm carrying on that tradition, supporting Chota. And I'm very excited about the new products coming out this year and working with Chota in 2023. I'm pretty rough on my gear and find myself putting a lot of miles on that gear and being pretty rough on it. So it's good to know that the Chota gear is durable, is bomber, and I don't have to worry about it. And even on those long trips, and you know, if you have a blowout, it's not going to be a good situation. So I'm excited to keep digging into this year. Clean, comfortable, charismatic, and ready for any situation you can throw at it. You can head over right now to Chota Outdoor at wetflyswing.com/Chota. That's CHOTA to support this podcast and a great family company right now. Okay, now back to the show. So you've been on the tour, right? You've actually been on the tour?
Right now, what I do for the most part is I'm a full-time caddy at Bandon Dunes Golf, which is the #1 public resort in the world.
Roy, now why is that? How is it the number? It seems like it's such a remote place.
Oh my God. It's funny because no one can really pinpoint this. It's one of those raw experiences that you just can't really explain, but you're really encompassed in nature in a way that you aren't when you're on the golf course, because these are not manicured courses. These are really just the way the land was. They kind of laid the grass down and that dune was already there.
Oh, so this isn't like Pebble Beach.
Right. So Pebble is, people compare it to Pebble a lot, but Pebble's way more manicured. And it's funny, people always say they rather come to Bandon every year than Pebble. And there's a couple things that set that aside. And guest service is definitely, caddying guest service is huge on that. When you're at Bandon, you can literally take your shoes off, put your feet. I mean, people wander around like they're at home, and that's the beauty of it. You go to Pebble and you pay, you're like $500 a round, but you have to stay for 2 nights and you got to take caddies. Oh, no matter how light your bag is, it's getting changed out. Now, I'm not saying that we don't do that a lot too, but sometimes when my players like, yeah, they changed this out. I'm like, you're kidding me.
What do you mean changing out?
So like bag weight, and like the way a bag carries is like huge for us. So we have 500 caddies. We have the biggest program in the world. Each course is like a 6.5 to 8 mile walk. And for a caddy, especially if you're carrying 2 bags, you could be walking 8 to 10 miles per round. So like maybe 20 miles a day. And so like your bag weight and like the strap and like how it carries is like pretty essential to us, and like need it to be a certain way. So we have hundreds and hundreds of change out bags at Bandon. So like, honestly, I typically tell I have a little thing for mostly I work off of referrals at this point. I have a lot of requests that are regulars that come back every year. When I have a new request that's like, hey, a friend of mine's coming out, can you take care of them? I send them kind of like a to-do list for Bandon and like what to expect and all that. And 9 times out of 10, I'm like, if you have a stand bag, staff bag, just like dump all your stuff in it and bring it out, and I'll just change it out here with one of our bags.
Gotcha. So what do you do in the caddy? I just think of myself, and it's been a while. I'm probably not a good example, but if I was coming out golfing, it'd be a mess. But I mean, what do you do as a caddy?
Basically a life coach. I'm going to, keep you from going off the rails mentally, because golf apparently makes people crazy.
Right. I've seen it. I've seen people throw plenty of clubs plenty of times. I've seen that happen.
Yeah. So, I've thought about this. It's been 10 years that I've been caddying at Bandon Dunes and at all. I do caddy down south in Palm Desert at the Madison Club, and I caddy at the Quarry, which is those are both very high-end private clubs.
In the California?
Yes. And I do caddy in the PGA Pro-Am. So on the PGA Tour, we're paired with pros. We have amateurs that are paired with pros, and I will caddy for an amateur that is paired with a pro during an actual tour event.
Exactly. That must be pretty cool, because now you're dealing with somebody that already knows what club he wants, right? How does that different?
Well, it's different. So like at the resort, like I said, these handicaps are high. They come out here. Now we're talking about people who maybe even are decent at golf, but like they don't play links style golf. So we're talking about like traditional golf that you would find in like Ireland or Scotland is the way Bandon Dunes. We have a lot of wind. Like if you look at a typical golf bag, I have like my driver's like at 9 degrees. Nobody has higher than 9 degrees on their driver. They have like, I have a 2 iron, a 3 iron. We have all irons, because you can't control the ball. You can't flight the ball, like the wedges, the bounce. Everything is different in a bag for like this type of play. So we get these golfers out here and they're like, yeah, I'll take an 8 iron. I was like, you'll get a 5, like absolutely. You'll never get that there. Get over yourself,
Yeah.
So and obviously out there, like you have better ball striking. Even with the amateurs on tour, you have better ball striking, and it's more of like a working relationship, like what you know to be true based on what you're observing, and what they know to be true based on their performance. And sometimes that can be a little trickier, but that's more like a marriage, that's a whole different way to approach it, and you're just giving information like, this is the front of the green, this is how much wind we have, this is how much uphill it is, and you let them kind of decide how aggressive they want to be based on how they're playing,
Yeah, I see.
So out at Bandon, though, it's funny because I say at Bandon all the time, these guys are like pin seekers. And I'm like, the tour guys are literally just trying to get a green and rig. Why are you trying to get a 3-foot birdie putt? Like, you are way worse than them.
Yeah.
You are still paying to play this game, my friend.
Yeah, right. Yeah, golf is a very it's hard. It's not an easy, it's maybe one of the hardest sports.
Okay, so that's the thing. Like, when we talk about the experience and like it's hard and sending people off the rails, what I've come to find, and I say this to the women in the men's lives who don't play and don't understand, it's not really an escape per se. It's quite different than that. When you're hitting a golf shot, you cannot be in the past and you cannot be in the future thinking about your outcome. You have to be really not thinking and relying on your mechanics, but you have to be fully in the present to execute a shot. And you have to stay there. It's kind of like a bull ride. You have to stay there for like a full 8 seconds or whatever it is,
Yeah.
And it's a long time to you, and it's like short to whoever's witnessing it,
Right.
And it's like, people don't understand, they hit this shot and it doesn't go well, and they realize that they're not in control of their mind or their body. No. And they're like, what the and that's a lot of the addiction, I think, to golf is like really, being in control of your mind and your body, like really being able to say, I have mental fortitude to be able to block things out and control. And it all spills over into life, like how you behave on the golf course. I mean, this is why business deals go down, on the golf course, is because like when you hit an errant shot, if you're losing your and throwing your club, sorry, we do not want to do business.
Good place to get to know somebody.
Yeah. So I think all of that is way more pertinent to the game, has a lot more to do with like everyday life control than people give it credit for. And like, that's a lot of the attraction. So when she's like, he just wants to be there, I'm like, and there is a lot of, going off the rails, lots of beers and stuff on the course. It's definitely a side to it where it's great to just go down and relax. But also I think some of that happens because they start playing. They're like, this isn't going well. I need a beer.
Yeah, exactly. That is the problem. Yeah. Or that is the problem, is that it feels it's good for a little bit and then you probably go a little bit too far and then there's no coming back.
Trying to adjust the levels out there.
Yeah.
But, and it's, again, like I definitely have both of those rounds. Like I have a girls trip. We call ourselves the Sand Tramps, and there's 12 of us, and we're all golfers from all over the United States and Canada. And we go on trips every year. And that's just a full-blown show. I mean, we have alcohol sponsors.
Oh, wow.
Big beer that's the golf club beer bong. We have that.
Oh, geez. Like literally a beer bong.
Yes. Yeah. So that's like a whole nother experience.
Yeah, that is. If the beer bong's coming out, you're at a whole nother level of, whatever that is. But
most of the time when I'm playing, I'm like, I'm doing what we talked about. I'm trying to control my mind and my body and like get that, squared away.
No, I love the golf. Well, I got to ask one more golf question, because this is like always the, I think I'm a little older than you, but I mean like Tiger Woods. So tell me this, I don't even know if you follow golf, but I mean, the guy, talk about a train wreck, right? I mean, the guy is the greatest ever. Right. Like, what is the deal now? Is he like legit, I mean, kind of on his way back, or is this just kind of another show? What do you think?
What I think is, I think he's having a transition right now, which is really good. I mean, I have never had respect for him until recently. And it's because I feel that when you are in the public eye like that, it is your responsibility to set a good example. And like, he absolutely did not do that. And all these people are idolizing him. And it's like, they're going to idolize your behavior too. And that's a problem. Getting up and driving and like banging everything you see, like, go take care of your That's what therapy's for, man. Like, please do not impress that upon millions and millions of people. Right. However, saying that, I'm not denying that I think that his story is amazing. Like, refused to eat as a baby unless he was watching his dad hit golf balls. Like, that whole saga is like amazing. He's incredible.
Yeah.
But it's like, I just think when you have that gift, you need to use it wisely. And so that's why I've struggled with him as a player throughout the years. But now, the way he deals with his son and the way his son plays.
Oh, his son is playing?
Oh my God, his son's like amazing.
What's his son's name?
Charlie.
Charlie Woods. Okay.
Yeah. But it's really like, he's amazing because, his dad's probably fixing all the things that he felt his dad did wrong and coaching him and doing all the things he felt his dad did right. Right. And his son's like really enjoying himself, you can tell, and getting good. And his dad's just like supporting his game. And like when you see him, not like grinding him, but like really letting him have time. It's amazing to watch.
Is his son like on the tour?
He's like a child.
Oh, another child project.
They do these like tour events, where they have like, where like the dailies will play together. It's like a father-son event. And so it is a televised deal, and the kids, no, very, very good.
Right. This is good. Okay, well, let's bring it back. I'm going to bring it back to flight time real quick because I had a couple questions here on the, I was kind of thinking at the start, the realistic fly patterns, because that's a big thing. You're out there like the salmon fly hatch is going, everybody's seeing bazillion stimulators or whatever. What are you tying? Like when people come to you, do they give you a special type of pattern?
Well, sometimes I do have a lot of people who will get a photo of a pattern somewhere and they're like, I can't find anybody who knows anyone who knows, like, can you make this? And I've never had an issue making it. So I do that a lot.
So just out of blue, you've never seen the fly before. It's like you just create it, follow a pattern.
They'll send me like the picture. I've never seen the actual fly, but I'll like, break it down as best I can and like blow it up a bunch of times, do whatever I can to figure it out. And every time they've been like, this is the fly,
Right.
So, it's worked so far. But, with that, again, I think the materials, like we're talking like, whatever somebody's using for their veil on the back of their chubby, it's like the material I'm using is just different. It's moving just differently enough that it's, causing more attraction, right?
Yeah, there's something different.
And the coloring, I have a thing on the coloring I notice on the Deschutes. If you're throwing under trees versus throwing out on water, I just basically what we're going into, I'm going to have 2 dry dropper setups and that's it. I'm going to have basically the same setup, but one will be for sunny and one will be for shady.
Gotcha.
So the coloring on that I noticed is huge. It's like a whole nother like purples and grays and whole other colors in the shadies. The regular colors aren't showing up right.
Gotcha. So the brighter or the purplish, and then out in the sun, you're using just your normal bug type colors.
Normal bug colors. Yeah. I do too. I have a couple of those patterns that hang just under the water too. That's more of a technique. The chubbies.
Oh, yeah. That's
more of a technique, I would say, than anything. Than a tying technique. It's a fishing technique.
Yeah.
But the way I weight everything, like I have the thick ones that I want to sit on top because some of the Deschutes is pretty big, and it rips by pretty quickly. And some of those deer hair simulators will just drown instantly, but also not bad for those to be underwater and catch fish that way too.
Yep. So the stimulator, is that something you tie a lot of?
Yeah, I do. I have like a foam type stimulator. It's almost like a hex bug, and it's like bright orange and bright black. And depending on, again, the coloring, that one sits real low in the water, and that one's very popular.
Okay.
Yeah. Again, it's like it has to do with whether it's a full bright day, partly cloudy, and then am I fishing in the sun or am I fishing under trees? That's where I've targeted my fly making for the Deschutes salmon fly hatch, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Are you heading over there? There's this like guiding, or you got a trip plan?
Yeah, so I've been actually listening to reports from Dick, and like obviously the hatch is going to be late this year because we had so much cold, wet weather. We had snow, like, swear to God, a couple weeks ago. So the hatch will be late. I have a couple more requests. I have a request at Bandon right now, and then I have one more after that, and then I'll be there like throughout the end of the month.
Oh, you will? So end of the month. So yeah, end of May pretty much.
Yeah, I'll just be there probably the last week and a half in May because I'm pretty sure that's
it.
Yeah, well, I was there. So I was there last week. I did go up to Bend last week. I was just on the middle Deschutes in town. I didn't go all the way up to Madras. But man, the bugs in the water, it was a bummer because like I wasn't really there to fish.
Yeah.
But it was like, I like brought my boyfriend up and he's never been fly fishing. And I was like, so I happen to have brought waders and
right.
brought everything.
So you're trying to get him into it.
Yeah, totally. Well, and he did good. Like we hooked fish and stuff, but then he was like, I dipped my waders because like there was like his fly line was like wrapped around a log that was like starting to go down the stream, and I'm like trying to run over there. So I got to change, and then I had a flat tire. But I did video and put up online. The bugs, man, they were so active. The nymphs were so freaking active. So it's like they're getting ready.
Yeah, they're and this is the middle. This is the middle Deschutes.
This is on the middle. Yeah.
So this is above. This is like been above Lake Billy Chinook.
Yeah, totally.
What's that like? That's kind of a different river up there. Is that kind of
it's just a little smaller. It's not crazy different, but it's just not as wide. Otherwise, the river is actually kind of similar, but more like bucket type. That's like the uppers like that. It's kind of a mix between the upper and lower, where it'll be flats for a while, but more of the buckets that you'll find on the upper.
Gotcha.
We were hooking in right away on this interesting pattern that I haven't actually gotten to use a lot. I think it was the year before last when I created it, but I happened to be probably in April again up on the Deschutes because TFO comes a lot that time of year. And I happened to look down and see a nymph that was like real comfortable walking underwater. He's walking around, and under him was all these little white hair. It was like the whole underbody of him was like...
Oh, albino or something like that? Or
I don't know. The underside of the nymph, I saw a couple of them. It was like all this white stuff came out. It was like, does anybody know about this?
Oh, right. So this wasn't the bug color. This was just some weird something going on.
Almost like he opened up, and it was like the way he was almost walking on like 1,000 little white hairs.
Ah, interesting.
And I have a video of it somewhere. I have to pull it up again.
Yeah.
It was wild, and I was like, okay, I did not know about this, right?
Right. The first thing I think about is maybe like gills, but or something like that.
It was kind of like that is what it reminded me of. So I tied basically nymphs with white chenille on the bottom and then doing like the black body over top, And and those were the ones I dropped in there. And man, it was like hammer, hammer, hammer. But then I had a flat tire.
Oh, Roy.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, the nymphs were just like, I was trying to hold them in my hand to take a video, and they just kept walking off. I mean, they were like so active.
They're cruising. That's right. Yeah, it's right around the corner. And Dick Sagara, do you know him pretty well?
I've known Dick. I mean, I've been with TFO for, maybe 8 years.
Oh, 8 years. Wow. Yeah. So you know Dick. How would you describe him? He seems like a pretty cool guy.
He is cool. Again, I think it's one of those things where it's like he took me on with TFO. He got me signed with TFO. So it's like that authority figure where I'm like, oh.
Oh, right.
But over the years, it's kind of like not that way at all, And I think for me, it's like, on the golf course, it's like everybody's at vacation, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like I'm also, so it's like, how do I be party and authority? And so like, I feel like with the sponsors, sometimes I've always been like a little, I'm like, guys, I live in Oregon, right? There's a lot of weed over here.
Right. Too much party.
I'm like, is that cool?
Right.
So, but it turns out it's all good, And so like I've done a lot of camping trips now with Dick. And,
oh, Roy.
Yeah, he always makes me bring my guitar. And the first time before I got my license so I have a lot of experience kayaking and like rapids and stuff. And I have a ton of experience. I lived on a sailboat for 8 years.
Oh, wow.
And I lived anchored out. So I rode, my rowboat was my form of transportation. So I have a ton of rowboat experience and kayak experience, but I hadn't run a drift boat, And his drift boat was the first. He's like, okay, so you're going to float me today. I'm like, oh, Jesus.
Wow.
Like, this time, yeah. It was in Dick's boat, so.
Oh, it was in Dick's. What type of boat?
He has a
Clacka, yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy. A sailboat seems amazing. You're for 8 years, and why anchored off? Why not at a dock? Or how's that look?
I mean, probably just because I was young and poor,
Yeah, that's it. So you can literally anchor up, and you can just go for free, anchor anywhere you want.
Yeah, I mean, I would say it was like because I was hardcore, but reality is probably because I was poor.
Yeah, so that's amazing. So 8 years you were doing this, so you're anchored up in just a little distance from shore?
Yeah, just like I was in Taylor's Creek in Beaufort, North Carolina, so just like a few hundred yards out, anchored on a mooring or like a super heavy anchor, and just rowed to the dinghy dock. There's like a public dock where everybody rows their little dinghy. And
yeah. And what would that be like when you're out there? Would you, in the morning, just boats kind of like, take us there. What is that like when you're living off a boat like that?
Amazing, because one thing I noticed is when you put yourself in a box, you really separate yourself. I mean, if I was going to get like deep about it, we all have this like connection to the earth and like just our energy. And I really feel like when you put yourself in a box, you really sever that a lot, you know? So like when you're kind of, when you're on a boat, you're really living in the elements. Like the water's rocking you to sleep, and like the air, you're always smelling it, and like it is what it is, you know? And so everything changes a little every day, which is way more interesting of a life.
Right. It's more natural, right? That's kind of how we evolved.
Yeah, and you get to take it's like being a snail. You take your home on your back
Man.
everywhere you go, you know, sail up and down the East Coast or whatever.
Is that what you would do? Were you like a pro? Could you just sail anywhere?
Yeah, I had a small 25-foot Bristol and then moved on a 50-foot wooden boat for a while with the guy I had dated for a couple years, and then moved back down to a 30-footer. Did a lot of sailing up and down the East Coast. Yeah. Nothing crazy. Didn't get to go anywhere crazy yet. I thought when I moved out to Oregon that I was just going to move on another boat, you know? It is like not like that out here.
Why is that? Why can't you do that here?
Well, it's not that you can't. I mean, I could. I actually have to move my boat out here this year. It's still out east, and it will be coming this way this year. So that project will begin. And there is a dock downtown where I can leave my boat. But like the Pacific is just different. You don't sail up and down the coast. You sail back and out, you know?
Why is that? Why don't you go up and down?
Well, it's just the way the winds and stuff work, you know? So like if I wanted to sail to California, it would be way faster if I just went to Hawaii first.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Crazy.
Because then I could go straight to Hawaii, and then I could turn around and tack straight back to like Los Angeles. Otherwise, it'd be like on a sewing machine, like a zigzag zipper. You'd be up. Takes so long.
Gotcha. Because you're going against the wind.
Yeah. You can't. You're going directly with or at it, and you can't sail that way. You have to be offset just a touch.
Crazy. God, this is so... Sailing is one... I mean, this is one of the things for me. It's one of those things I've always had like as a goal. You know what I mean? I've never... In fact, I had my, father-in-law just passed away recently, and he has a sailboat. And it's one of those things where I'm like, man, this seems like it's really an opportunity to like just step up and be like, all right, I need to learn to sail. You know, how hard is it if you're like, you've never done it, really? I've been on the boat a couple times to learn to sail.
I mean, it's not super, super easy.
What's harder? Easier to learn to fly fish than sail?
No, I think they're kind of really similar because like with the fly fishing, you know, there's like always something else that comes up. You're like, yeah, but we haven't gotten to this type of water. Oh, but we haven't fished this type of species. Oh, but we, it's like there's always more information. And that's like with the sailing, it's like, you're just dealing with Mother Nature is the thing. Like it's an interesting relationship being on the sea, like watching people interact with the sea. As a commercial fisherman and as a sailor is very interesting to me. And I think every sailor and every, longliner who's out there for any periods of time will tell you that this is true. Man, and again, like now I'm back to just like my science and my avenue. You're like a radio tower that sends and receives frequency, right? And like water holds frequency and memory. And we're talking about an entire ocean. So like, kind of what you put out there I've seen people talk about the ocean on the calmest day, and all of a sudden a rogue wave literally takes them out, and we're like, how?
Oh, wow.
More than once. And so it's like, I find that if you really can find a way to work with her and respect her, it's like she will take care of you.
Yeah.
There's always a way in the water, at or around the water. There's like always, in fact, there's a newer like movie out about a young girl who like single-handed around the world. And it reminds me of that, it's like she barely made it by her hair and like her butt, but it's like, it's kind of one of those things where it's like, I feel like the ocean always leaves you an out, but it's like, you gotta respect it and listen to it, and you can't muscle it. And
Right. I love that. Have you ever thought about just, sailing across, just going for it?
I've always wanted to sail around the world single-handed. Probably why I still have my little Bristol. The Bristol is like a 6,000-pound boat with 4,000 pounds. It's the only boat you can stand up in, and it's the only like real like boat of that size. One of the only ones that's really made for going around the world.
Oh, really?
And I just have never been able to let go of it. It was my first boat too, and a Bristol channel cutter. And they're kind of, those are sought after hauls as well. They're not easy to come by, and they're real classics.
Mm-hmm. Is it a wood boat?
No, it's fiberglass. They're fiberglass, but they're just like. And one of the things too is the one I got, it was like it was very late 60s. right before they got all that bad like batches of epoxy, and right before they like knew how thick they really needed to be. So the boat's like way too thick, which is awesome. Not way too thick, but it's like, when they realized they could skimp on it a little, it was like before.
Oh, so it's tough.
Tough boat.
Tough. Wow, this is cool. So
one day she'll be back out. I just, there are boats littered everywhere. I got a buddy who owns a boatyard in North Carolina, and he's like, every once in a while he calls me. He's like, which one do you want? Just please come get one of these. There are boats everywhere you could have for free.
Oh, really? Just have them. You don't have to. You can.
Yeah, people don't pay their dry storage fee.
Oh, right.
Yeah, and it's like I come out here and there's just not that many sailboats because it's just like not the sailing. There's no intercoastal waterway. It's not friendly back and forth. There's not like that sort of community. I just didn't realize I needed to bring my boat with me when I came.
Right. Oh, gotcha.
And so I always wanted to have property. I own a home here, I bought a house here, and I always wanted to do that too. So that's part of the picture. But
yeah. Yeah. Wow. You got some good stuff. Do you have like a, songs out there, album and stuff?
That's what I'm really working on. Like I have Pro Tools. Like I have a full recording studio. I just got a brand new bass because the one that I had before was too to record on. So like I'm really working, and I supposedly hired a guitarist, but I am having a hard time getting him to practice a ton. So, but he is amazing. And so I'm really trying right now to get it all down again. I had an album out forever ago, but like so old, and I just like think it's trash now. So I have like 3 albums ready to record. So I'm trying right now to get it out. I have to get it out before that August thing. So the Campout it's the Hook, Wine, and Thinker. So it's like a BYOB campout with music on the Rogue. And we're just talking about fishing and conservation, and you can bring your drift boats and go fish during the day and all that. And it's August 18th through 20th.
Perfect.
And the tickets are dirt cheap. They're online. They'll be on Eventbrite.
So to get those tickets, where would they find them? How would they just search on Eventbrite?
Yeah, Hook, Wine, and Thinker, Conservation Campout, all that stuff will be on there. Yeah, it's by Fly Fishers International, the Oregon Council. And we'll have it like on our Facebook page and on our, Instagram. I'll have it on my Instagram too. So
perfect. And I'll put a link. We actually just did an episode a little bit ago with John Hazlitt. He's a guide up there on the Rogue, and he broke down like step by step to fishing that upper part of the Rogue. So we'll add that as well, so people can check that out, because that's the cool thing about this, right? You could have music, and that's great.
And hire John.
Yeah.
John to take you fishing during this event. That's what's up. There we go.
That's it. So yeah, we'll send everybody out to Sara Jo Flies on Instagram, right? And and tell me this. I got one last question for you. Sara Jo, I was just listening to, I mentioned the Queen, right? So Queen, who's the lead singer of Queen? What's his name? Freddie Mercury.
Oh, Freddie Mercury, yes.
Right, and he just came up with that, right? His name he had some other name.
Oh my gosh. So this is a great time. If anybody wants to help me with a stage name, okay? This is a great time to just throw that out there.
For you?
For me.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying you've got it. You've got it, though. You've got, like, your royalty.
Okay, so I was like, man, if we could, like, tie in, like, my last name somehow. But so I was thinking about, like, using the word midge or, like, midges just because it's a fly fishing thing, but also because it's, like, Barbie's friend who has brown hair.
Right.
So I'm like, I don't know. But if anyone gets creative, like, send it to me.
That's right. You got to stick with royalty for sure. So we just need them to send you a new first name.
Yeah, I need like something. I don't know. I was just trying to play on all those words somehow.
All right. I'm going to send some people your way on Instagram here to throw some stuff at you, because we're going to get you a stage name. This will be perfect. So anybody listening right now, if you're hanging on till the end here, just send Sara a name for her, something royalty, right? That you got it.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, Sara. Well, thanks for all the time today. Like we said, we'll put links in the show notes to all this. And thanks for all the time. This has been a lot of fun. I love that we've kind of dug into everything, fly fishing and everything else. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's been awesome. Thanks a lot.
There it is. wetflyswing.com/472. 472 will get you what you need to get right now. So go get it. We're giving away good stuff all year long, and the newest thing we got going on top of our events in our schools is on Instagram. You can head over right now at wetflyswing, follow us there, and submit a question for an upcoming guest, and you get a shot at not only getting a mention on this podcast, getting your question answered on this podcast, but you actually get a chance to win some gear. So we're going to be giving away some swag as we move forward. So stay tuned for that and jump in right now. Follow us at Wet Fly Swing. Let's get a listener shout out in the books before we get out of here. Alan Chatrand. Alan, I know we've chatted before, and I know I always mess up your last name, so you're going to have to remind me if I was even close on that one. But let's give you a shout out right now. Here we go. Alan says, "Hi, Dave. Wenatchee, Washington here. Brown trout are my favorite, but rainbows and cuts are what I chase the most. Heading to the big hole tomorrow, we'll be getting caught up on past episodes on the drive. Keep up the good work. Tight lines, Alan Chatrand." Alan, amazing. Thanks for checking in today. Always appreciate seeing your name in the inbox. And if you get a chance, you got to remind me, send me an email, or actually send me a message on social. Let me know if I got that, your last name close. I can't remember this one, but I appreciate your support. If you want to get a shout out on this podcast and get a shout out where I blow your last name as well, potentially, reach out to me anytime, dave@wetflyswing.com, or on social media, like we said, at wetflyswing, and you'll get a chance for me to see if I can blow your last name. That's the new segment. Can Dave blow your last name on the podcast? Let's give it a shot. All right. Do we want to look at where we're heading next really quick? Where are we heading next? Let's take a look if it's worth a shot. Where are we heading next? Where are we heading next? All right, let's give one shout out. I always love to give this right around the corner. Right around the corner. You've got another Great Lakes Dude podcast coming, and you know it's going to be good. I think Jeff might be breaking out his first interview podcast, at least on this show. Stay tuned for that. And I think that's about good for today. I'm gonna let Sara take this away as we roll out of here with that ballad we mentioned at the start. So time to listen to that ballad. Let's hear her knock this one out. I will say this is live recording over the internet into her device, so this is not the greatest audio, but as good as we can get, and I think it's what it's all about that's more important. So let's listen to that now, and I hope you are having a great morning, a great afternoon, or a great evening wherever you are in the world, and I appreciate you for stopping in today, and let's let Sara take it away.
Won't you let me down easy? Take it in small pieces. Might have slipped along the way. Blindside before hitting a wall. We met in the forest, ghost trees clinging to the coast. Oh, you made me see in greens and blues, 'cause happiness and pain, they all feel the same. There's no easy way to roll the dice. Gray bleeds from black and white, but if I can't be moved by the look that you give when your lips leave my skin, and I watch you wrap yourself so tight, won't find more sap in the pines. No, you won't find more sap in the pines. And I break down and I get quiet, 'cause your love's hard to receive. Oh, your kindness triggers trauma. Tears all coming on like a weekend. And all I used to know rushes like a tide with undertow. have to decide between ebb and flow. There's no easy way to roll the dice. Gray bleeds from black and white. But if I can't be moved by the look that you give when your lips leave my skin, and I watch you wrap yourself so tight, won't find more sap in the pines. No, you won't find more sap in the pines. Oh, what the heart does know, and that the risk is the safe way to go. There's no easy way to roll the dice. Gray bleeds from black and white. But if I can't be moved by the look that you give when your lips leave my skin, and I watch you wrap yourself so tight, won't find more sap in the pines. No, you won't find more sap in the pines.